All right, welcome. Hello, everyone. Switch over here. Hello from Jeff at Tidy Bites. I have a question for you. How many photos and videos would you say you have on your various devices, however many that might be? One, a dozen, anywhere in between? Hey, Marianne. Um, oh, yeah, a bit of housekeeping. Uh, those of you who were with me 2 weeks ago on the live stream where I talked about the IFO method, I have to apologize because all of you with all your wonderful comments and interactions, I missed all of them live. I only saw them after the fact because I did not realize that I had hidden the comments. So that problem is solved. I will no longer be missing any of your wonderful interactions. So anyway, this should be a more enjoyable conversation for both sides. So Marianne says lots and lots of photos and videos, and that is a common issue. Wow. All of a sudden in the afternoon, my kids downstairs are remarkably loud. So if you can hear them, you also realize they're having tons of fun. So hopefully noise reduction is working. Anyway, lots and lots of photos. Yes, that is a problem that so many people have. And as I have worked on building this Tidy Bites community for a digital organization and helping people dig out from under all of their data, photos included, it occurred to me that instead of just writing a bunch of how-to kinds of articles or even building coursework, which I'm doing at the same time, it would be interesting at least, and hopefully enjoyable and even fun for me to actually walk through my own process as I deal with some of these same issues. Because the program, the community, it came out of my own personal need of, hey, I have this terrible digital mess, and what am I going to do to get on top of that? And some areas I have already made it pretty well, at least. Like I think my email is pretty organized, but my photos in particular, photos and videos, I've got decades of photos, and as the title of this live stream suggests, literally a million that I have to work through. Now, I know that they are not all worth keeping, and a huge chunk of them, I know because of some work I've already done, are actually duplicates, which is the most fun part to get through. But before I get into that, so my goal here is to walk with you guys through my own journey as I do the same things that I'm recommending that all of you do in various areas of technical data organization. So hopefully you all will enjoy that. And if you are in the same boat as I am, if you're in, you've got other areas, know that I'm planning to do a bunch of these videos. So not just photos, but I wanted to start with photos because it is definitely the most relevant for my own organization journey. And I figured it'd be the most fruitful, therefore, as I go through these things and decide, how do I make progress? What decisions do I make? What software do I use? You would enjoy seeing that along with me and maybe find it to be informative and helpful for your own process. So first of all, if you were here 2 weeks ago, you know that I talked about the wrong button. There we go. The IFO method. I'm not going to dwell on that because if you want to know details about that, you can just go watch that video or read the blog post, which I'll link in the description of this video as well. But I'm only going to talk today about the identify step because with a million photos, as you might imagine, I could talk forever going into the organize part, but I'm not actually there. So like I said, I'm going through this process in real time with you, and I want to do bite-sized videos that you can follow along with if you want to do the same kinds of things in your life. So I don't want to dump too much on you, but also I haven't actually done that much. So we're focusing on the identify step today for photos in particular, and that's the narrow focus of this live stream. So I'll go back to me here, and so if you had to identify your own photos, if you're familiar at all with the IFO method, basically what we're trying to do is figure out what you have and where it is. That's the core of the identify step of the IFO method. So if you, for any of you watching now, do you have ideas about where your stuff is? Like it might be mainly on your phone. For photos, that's very common. It might be on various cloud services like Google Photos or iCloud, or sometimes Dropbox. You can auto sync with that. There are actually many, many different cloud platforms that people might use, and offline storage. Maybe you're good about trying to move or copy your photos off of your phone and put them onto your laptop or your desktop or an external hard drive that's dedicated for that purpose, something like that. So that's what we're trying to do here. And in my case, there are a lot of things that I have to consider, and I'll get into why that is in just a minute. But okay, so yeah, Marianne, we've got phone, iCloud, and computer, and hopefully, especially if you use particularly iCloud. Not everyone, of course, is going to be using a Mac, and even if you are, you might not be using iCloud, but iCloud is pretty good about keeping things in sync. And so even if you have, photos your phone and computer, and, if you manage it on the web, something like that, iCloud should at least simplify your process a little, because you're not going to have a whole bunch of independent copies. Probably. That's not guaranteed, but it is at least likely. And kudos to Apple for making that happen. So anyway, before I get into the identify step for me and the list of things that I had to come up with, at the beginning of this process, it's really important to figure out what it is you want at the end of the process. So you have something that you're constantly moving towards, because without that, you might do helpful things, but you're not going to know when you're done, or if something happens along the way, think, do I need to shift gears and go in this other direction, or is this going to move me away from where I hope to get to eventually? So what I did is I just made a list of things that I didn't like, that I don't like, I should say, about my current photo situation. And then I flipped them all around and said, okay, here are my goals. I want to fix each of these things. So for example, generally I have just way too many photos. I want to have not so many photos. 1 million is too many for one person. I'm not a professional photographer. I only have 2 kids. No one needs 1 million photos, not even me. So that was the main first thing that came to mind. I have way too many. So how do we deal with that? Well, I know I have multiple duplicates. So I know that sounds redundant, but it's because it is redundant. I have 5 or 6 copies sometimes of the same small sets of images. And that's a result of using different sync and backup services, or copying photos from one hard drive to another as I've upgraded computers. And you just end up with this very fragmented collection that's spread out all over the place. And it's very hard to stay on top of, even if otherwise it were perfectly organized, which it's not in my case. Even if it were, that's a really terrible way to store your photos. So I don't want them all over the place. I know I have a lot of low quality or pointless, objectively and even subjectively pointless images that I really don't need to keep. They're blurry, out of focus. They're, a burst set of 20 photos of almost the same thing, and we don't need that. I don't, even if I were to share that with people, they would get tired of looking through them very quickly, as I do when I try to do little piecemeal organization things here and there. So then I have poor or non-existent backups. And in many cases, I have at least 2 copies. I'd say in most cases, at least 2 copies of most of my photos. But that's a big one, because I don't want to accidentally lose anything important. And yes, I need to figure out what's important first. But without backups, I'm one accident away from losing a whole bunch of wonderful memories. Then thinking farther along the process, my photos in most cases are really not curated very well at all. So they're not tagged. They're not, they don't have any keywords to identify what's in them. Best cases, they're organized by date. Occasionally there will be an event title on a folder, but that's not common. That's the exception. And it's, maybe 1 or 2% of the photos that I actually have. So I want to fix all of those issues. I want far fewer photos. I want exactly one master copy of each photo, no duplicates, other than intentional complete backups, but that's a different part of the process. So no accidental duplicates. I want a single centralized master storage location for everything, which actually makes backups way easier. I want to go through and get rid of the low quality and pointless photos. I want to have automatic and regular complete backups. I want photos that are tagged by what's in them and organized by date and event, as much as that applies. Sometimes there's no event, but at least organized by date. And then finally, I need a clear structure in place at the end of this process and an efficient way to get new photos into that structure. So I take photos, say, on my phone, which is honestly where they usually come from these days, and very easily get only the ones that matter into the structure that I want. So that's all of my goals. Now, moving on to actually how we start the process, the identify step of the IFO method. And like I said earlier, that's the only thing we're going to talk about today, because it's going to get way too complicated if I go beyond that in one video. So first thing is digital versus print photos. And this is something that a lot of people have to deal with. I don't, because I really came into photography in my own life kind of right on the edge of when digital cameras were becoming mainstream and cost effective, economic enough for me to get one. So I've got maybe 3 or 4 dozen print photos at the very most from the days when I had, as a kid, I had a film camera. But I'm mostly ignoring those for right now, because I know I could scan those, digitize them in 10 minutes, well, maybe not quite, but in very little time. And they're not the problem. The problem for me is digital photos. If you do have a lot of print photos, then it makes sense, I think, to digitize them first. And you can do that either yourself with either just a smartphone camera and an app designed for this. There are some, I want to say, smart photo. I'll look that up with the linking. I've used it actually, and it works okay. Or a flatbed scanner, or a feed through photo scanner. Or if you want to have somebody else do it, there are many different services that you can pay to have that done. And I'll link to maybe a Consumer Reports list of some of those, if that's interesting to you. Hey, Marcus, good to see you. I have the comments on this time, so nobody's lost in the background. Anyway, so digital versus print, that's one thing, but it's kind of a separate topic. Again, if you have a lot of print photos, just probably digitize them first, because that's going to give you the most flexibility. Doesn't mean you have to get rid of the printed photos, but going forward, to stay coordinated with what I'm doing here, they really need to be digitized. So once you have either all of your digital print photos, or excuse me, all of your print photos digitized, or you only have digital photos in the first place, which is my case, then the goal is to figure out where they are. And in my case, I have so many devices, and I'll list and show you what they are, but at least some of them, not every one of them. But what you're looking for here is they're going to be on cameras with memory cards in them. Usually, at least, well, pretty much every digital camera I know doesn't store the photos on the camera. They're always on a memory card. So you're going to have memory cards if you use digital cameras. They might have photos on them. You will have smartphones for sure. Probably everyone watching this live or as in the replay as photos on a smartphone. They might be on your computers, whether that's a desktop or laptop. They might be on tablets. Not many people, I guess, probably take photos right on tablets, but they can get synchronized there. They can be on internal computer hard drives that have been removed from devices. Like, that's one thing that I have many of, because I've upgraded over the decades. I've upgraded my computers and pulled out the old hard drives with the noble intent of organizing the data on them, and then ultimately not getting to that in most cases. They might be on external hard drives that you bought for either photo backups specifically or just general backups, or just additional storage, if you wanted it plugged in. So you've got internal and external hard drives, miniature like USB flash drives, CDs or DVDs that either you burned or your friends gave you from pictures, that they took at events. Also, this one gets lost sometimes. There are often photos in email attachments or text message threads that you don't realize may not automatically end up in, say, the camera roll on your phone. And sometimes it doesn't matter. Like those are usually one-off pictures as opposed to like a whole album of an event. But if you think you might have those, it's a good thing to keep in mind. So you can just take a peek through your messages or your emails and look for attachments. I know on iOS in the Messages app, they give you a handy way to quickly show all media in a given text message thread. And I can't remember exactly how to get there. I think you tap on the name of the contacts and there's a little thing you can just view media on. And from there, you can either delete them if they don't matter, or you can save them to your camera roll or share them, just as long as you know that they're there. That'll give you the option to include them or exclude them intentionally instead of forgetting that they're there in the first place. So it's a lot of things. And in my case, what I had hoped to do for the very first step was just to make a list of all the devices that I have currently that are in my possession that are maybe or definitely storing some photos. And there are some that I have that I know don't have photos on them. Those are the hooray, success, yay, wonderful ones, because I know I don't have to do anything else with them. But so that's what I did. I came up with a comprehensive list. At least I think it's comprehensive. I can always add to it later if I need to. But a list of all of the devices that I have. And your list might not look quite as big as this. It might be bigger. I feel like I'm probably on the upper end of complexity, even though I don't maybe have as many photos as some people, especially not being a professional photographer. But I do tend to go through computing devices a lot because I'm a techie, nerdy person. So I ended up with one desktop computer that has 4 hard drives in it, 3 of which I know to have photos and videos on them. And one of them is actually my triage location. We'll get into that next time when I talk about filtering. But all 3 out of 4 of those drives have at least some, and in many cases, boatloads of photos and videos. So that's 1, desktop computer. 2, laptop computer. Fortunately, in my case, the only photos that are on that one I know to be automatically synchronized and mirrored with the photos that are in one location on my desktop. So I can effectively ignore that one, because any changes I make on the desktop side are going to automatically be made as well on the laptop. So I don't have disparate photos in both of those cases. Then I've got some external hard drives. I've only got, I think, 3 of those, and they may have photos and videos on them. So I need to go through that. Those are just USB, the mechanical drives that sit on your desk or under your desk. Then I've got internal hard drives, and that's the really frightening one in my case, because those are the ones that look like this. And yeah, I've got 8 of those that are this size. I've got 13 more that are this size. So these ones typically are in desktops. They're 3.5 inches, and this one is rather large, 3 terabytes. These are the smaller ones come from laptops, and they have they're actually the same kind of interface. This is called, if I can make it focus, Serial ATA. Come on, you can do it. There we go, more or less. Serial ATA. They are the same. We'll just go with that. And you don't need a computer in order to get data off of those. They make devices like this, which can be had for $25-ish from Amazon and other places, where you can actually just plug in drives. I'll show you how it goes. Like it's like it's a toaster. Yeah, this way. And it just goes right in like that. And then when you plug in, there it is, USB and power, then it shows up as just an additional hard drive on your on your desktop or laptop, wherever you want to plug it in. Okay, Marianne asks, do you have a checklist that people can go through so they don't miss any devices they may have photos on? That is a great question, and the answer is no, but I am absolutely going to create one. So thank you for that recommendation. It's certainly helpful. I have not something quite as direct as a checklist, but kind of a haphazard list of what I have. It's actually on the Tidy Bytes website. But a checklist is a great idea, and I will absolutely make one. So I'll either reach out to you directly because I can, or put it in the description as well for this video. So those are the hard drives that I have. Then I also have a literal box of USB drives. And there are, I counted them, there are 13 in that box. So I get to go through those and see if there are photos on any of them. And honestly, I don't use those very much. So in that case, and we'll get into this more when I ultimately talk about the filtering step, what I'll probably do is just take everything off of each drive in turn, label it as a folder on my triage location and just move everything off so that I know each drive is blank. For the flash drives. I'm not going to do that with the hard drives for a different reason, which I'll get into. And it has to do with accident recovery, because those are mechanical. For the flash drives, they're what's called solid state, and they're not likely to stop working if you accidentally drop them on the floor. But that's for next video. So all those flash storage or flash drives. And then I've also got a few of these. Now in my case, come on. There we go. I don't have too many of those because I just never bought that many. And I do have a digital camera. This one is the main one that I used in the day before my smartphone did most of that work. But so I've got a few of those, and those I'm going to treat just like the USB flash drives, because they're, other than being in different form factor, they are exactly the same thing on the inside. And I know for sure that if there's anything on those, it's going to be photos and videos. So those are pretty easy to take care of. They're just stick them in, move the stuff off, pull them out, and you're done. And then finally, the one that is going to be potentially very different for everyone is cloud storage, and sync services like Google Photos or iCloud or Dropbox or OneDrive or pCloud. There's literally hundreds of these different ones, not all of them specifically focused on photos, but you can put photos on any of them. So in my case, I used, at some point in my life, I used Google Photos and Dropbox and iCloud and OneDrive in different ways, but I know there's some overlap there and duplication. But in many cases, I think in Dropbox particularly, there won't be a ton of files, of photos, And I've tried to do that on purpose. At the point where I started using Dropbox, I was more concerned with not fragmenting my photo collection than I was at the beginning. So that is my list. I've got, again, desktop, laptop, a few external hard drives, a whole mess of internal hard drives, a box of USB flash drives, a few handful of SD cards, and 4 main cloud storage services. Google Photos is definitely the one that has the most photos, because my wife and I both use that. And there are probably, oh gosh, I don't even know, at least 100,000 photos there. And again, are they duplicated other places? In some cases, yes. Google Photos is not one that's super easy to get stuff off of either. It's possible, but it's not, they don't make it easy because they want to keep you there. Who can blame them, but I don't want to stay there. So that will be something that we talk about in the filter step, which involves actually pulling things together and deciding what to hang on to. So that is the first step of my journey of getting through 1 million photos. And I'll tell you afterwards in a different video, it will be next time, how I know that there's 1 million, because I've gotten a little past where I'm actually talking in my own process, but we'll get there. And I didn't think it was going to be that many, but my goodness. Anyway, so there's another comment, Marianne. You have lots of USB drives. I hear you. But the good thing is you don't have to do everything at once. If you know where everything is, then you can have a done and a not done file as you get time to work through these. And nothing says it has to be done in a day or a week or even a year for that matter. Life is important, and this is not necessarily the most important thing. But if you know where they all are, then you can sort. Here's what I've got. Here's what I still have to do, and here's what's done. So anyway, that made it through my intro to how I'm starting to deal with my million photos. So if anyone has any questions that have not already been posted, I'm happy to take them. If you don't, by all means, you can check out what's already been written in terms of general organization, or the post that I just put up, which I'll link to, concerning this same topic of how I'm getting started. You can look at the IFO method for more details on how you can make progress in your own photo organization or other digital organization tasks. And all that can be found on the TidyBytes website. That's TIDYBYTES.com. And if you're interested in this, you can subscribe to this channel. You can jump on the newsletter on the website, where I send basically once a week emails that deal with digital organization. You can send me a question through the website or from that newsletter, or a lot of ways to get in touch with me. I'm all over social media. So thank you for joining me. I appreciate all of you, whether you're watching live or watching the replay, and I will see you next time. Happy data taming.